Hey, welcome to Internet Roundup. That's Josh sorting out his handiwork. And I'm Chuck, and we do the Stuff You Should Know podcast by day. And by night, we transform into the Internet Roundup crew.
It's nighttime.
Which is pretty much just us.
And Casey.
Casey over there in the corner, being weird.
So, Chuck.
Yeah.
We're going to round up Internet starting now.
All right, here's the first article. Boy, we're getting right down to business today.
Mm-hmm.
We got somewhere to be, huh?
I have to pee.
You're interviewing Neil deGrasse Tyson in like an hour.
Yeah.
You excited?
Yeah, I'm very excited.
I bet.
It's going to be great.
I have to go to the dentist to get this. See that?
Yeah. Enjoy your Delta flight.
Yep. Enjoy those peanuts.
Somebody just went.
So I'm going to the dentist to get surgery done, and Josh is interviewing Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Yep.
That's pretty much the
Chuck's
story of our
the
lives.
old screw job. That's what that's called.
Let's just go ahead and tackle this self-surgery because I thought about replacing my own tooth with a Tic Tac.
Yeah.
Or a chiclet.
Yeah, just jam it in there and hope it doesn't dissolve.
Jam it in there. I jammed a grape up in there the other day for to show my...
I would love to see that.
It was pretty funny looking.
I have a grape in my pocket. You want to do it?
Oh.
So, did you hear about this a couple years back when Alexis Madrigal from the Atlantic first came up with this?
Yeah, I thought I had heard this story before.
Yeah, it came out. It made the rounds a few years ago, and I was like, this can't be talked about enough.
Right, agreed.
I don't know where Madrigal came up with it, but he found some sort of document or something about a Soviet doctor stationed in Antarctica in 1961. And toward the middle of winter down there, or summer. Yeah, March would be summer. At any rate, there was a horrible storm that trapped these guys in at this new Soviet base in Antarctica.
A sunstorm?
No, a snowstorm.
Oh, it was summer. I thought it was...
right.
Gotcha.
A daffodil storm. So the surgeon is trapped in there. They're hunkered down. They got plenty of food. It's not a problem. And then he's like, oh, something doesn't feel right.
It sounds like the beginnings of Alien and the Thing rolled into one.
Right. It is.
Yeah.
Except instead of an alien or an alien, it was an appendix.
That's right.
Yeah.
Which was the original title for Alien, I think. Appendix. Yeah.
But not
No, just Appendix. His name was Leonid Rogozov.
Yeah, great name.
Great Russian name. And it was 1961, and he said, you know what? I'm 27 years old. I'm the only doctor here. My appendix might burst and I might die unless I perform surgery on myself.
Yep.
And that's just what he did.
Yeah, and when you're performing surgery on yourself, you do not have the luxury of anesthesia.
Yeah, and you know because you've done it.
Oh, yeah. A couple of times.
Sure.
But you can't be knocked out because, again, you're the one performing the surgery. You need to have a steady hand.
Yeah.
Because you're cutting into your guts. And if you cut into your guts and you cut the wrong thing, you can die of sepsis and all sorts of terrible stuff. Everything's compartmentalized there.
Yeah. He probably couldn't even get drunk.
No.
Like
he had to be totally with it.
Yeah.
And he was.
Man.
So he had a couple of the other soldiers there, other researchers, I'm not sure, basically hang out and make sure that he was awake and if he needed any help, they were there for him. And he spent an hour and a half cutting into himself. He accidentally nicked himself once where in a place he shouldn't have, so he had to stop and stitch that up.
Right.
And then continue on. And he would work for like 5 minutes, cutting into his guts. We have a picture of this, but we want to go ahead and put a big disclaimer up that this is a picture of a man performing surgery on himself.
Right. So,
yeah.
There it is. He
spent an hour and a half like this, going through and basically using feel, it said, right?
Yeah, he said that he tried to use a mirror. He didn't use gloves because I guess he needed to feel more accurately. But he said the mirror, obviously is reversed. So that just confused him. So he mainly did it, just by feeling around in there.
Right.
And knowing his own body.
Yeah, he knows his innards that well.
Yeah.
But he'd work for about 4 or 5 minutes and then like get woozy and have to stop and rest for about 30 seconds. And as he got closer and closer, he finally got his hand on the appendix.
Yeah.
And at about that time, he was like, I'm not going to make it. His heart started to slow really badly. He said his hands felt like rubber. And he's like, I'm not going to make it here now at this moment. I'm not going to make it. And he was like, no, I'm pressing on. This guy is maybe the toughest mofo that ever lived.
Yeah, that's his title. Toughest mofo.
Yeah.
That ever lived.
Yeah.
He even wrote in his journal kind of how it went. And when he finally got to it, he said, finally, here it is. The cursed appendage with an exclamation point. And he said, with horror, I noticed the dark stain at its base. That means just a day longer, and it would have burst.
Yeah.
So he would have died.
Yeah, so he made the right decision because he survived. He removed his appendix, sutured it off, sewed himself back up, and was back working 2 weeks later.
Yeah, and he lived to like his mid to late 60s.
Something 66.
Yeah, not bad.
He died in 2000.
I would have just had a T-shirt or like 100 T-shirts made that just say, I took out my own appendix. What have you done?
Right.
And just worn that around every day of my life.
Or just not worn a shirt and had a tattoo that said, ask me about my scar. You know?
Even better.
Yeah.
And we moved from there to the Isle of Wight, where the band The Who performed a very famous concert in the 1960s, I think. And they still have a concert festival there, but none of that has to do with this because this is about feces.
It is.
That's called misdirection.
It is.
You like that?
So if you go to the Isle of Wight, yes, I do. If you go to the Isle of Wight Museum or the Isle of Wight Zoo, you're going to find basically a pop-up museum of feces.
That's right. And it was created by an artist collective known as Eccleston George. Not a person.
Kind of like Monty Python, probably.
Yeah. He was a great guy. He's very funny.
Right. He wore like gold rings on both hands.
And so it's not just like, oh, look, it's poo-poo, it's funny. They wanted to educate people about poo. And there are 20 illuminated resin spheres. They're really neat looking if you check that out. It was a really cool way to display it that had been, I guess, kind of kiln dried in a machine. Sort of a kiln. It was specially built for this to dry poo. And they have all different kinds of samples from all over the world, everything from real human babies to animals. They have one, this one sounds really creepy, a tawny owl pellet containing bones and teeth.
The owl's like, oh man, that hurts.
Teratoma poop.
Right.
Which is a great band name,
Pooped
by the
out
way.
its twin.
Nigel George, one of the curators, said it provokes strong reactions from people.
I can imagine.
Understatement of the year.
But the way they did display it is pretty neat. Like, so they dried the stuff out. And they said I think one type of feces, stick insect droppings took an hour to dry out. Lion droppings took like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But they desiccated them, and then they put them in this resin sphere so you can like pick it up or look at it or wander around it depending on how hands-on they're letting you. But it's going to hit the road, right?
I think so. It should at least. And they're also trying to raise awareness for sanitation around the world, for people to try and get folks to invest more in clean sanitation for developing nations. So it's got a message behind it.
These are good guys.
Good guys. You got anything else?
Nope.
All right. Well, we're going to go look at our own poo, and we'll see you next week on Internet Roundup.